Hello and welcome to Crackle Comics issue number 36, episode 36. And we have quite the rundown of big releases. I'm Mike alongside with,
Daniel.
And Vincent.
oh dear God, just leave it muted the whole show. Um, but we'll jump into everything here as we got 13 books, and I think a lot of us read stuff this week, so it should be a heavy on discussion. But I'll kick things off with the first of three Batman-centric books this week. Batman 3 Jokers number 2. This is Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok, Brad Anderson, same team as the last one in this marquee, 3-issue prestige miniseries. And this one keys more into that criminal Joker, like the 1940s one that we saw. I guess he's going by the criminal, because the comedian is still around and the clown is the one that Jason blew the brains out of in the last issue. But Batman and Batgirl are still tracking clues on these different Joker killings as they're seeing that the mayor of Gotham has been killed by these dogs that were exposed to Joker gas. And then we see the prints on like one of the things they find at the crime scene matches Joe Chill, so they end up going to Blackgate to confront him. And then they see, oh, he's in the hospital in Blackgate. And then going back to Jason, he's on the trail of the Joker as one of the other ones, and he gets captured and beaten down by the criminal Joker, who ultimately tells him, hey, you're too dumb to be the Joker, so I'm going to do a different plan. As we kind of felt that, oh, is Jason going to become the next Joker? That was, one of the cliffhanger antidotes that we were left with in the end of the last one. But no, it doesn't seem to be that plan. He ends up getting saved by Bruce and Barbara. And then we key into the differences of how they, recovered on their various traumas suffered by the Joker. And Babs has like the support system showing that like she had, Bruce, she had her dad, and the rest of the Bat family around, while Jason didn't have anyone. So they have this like moment, and kind of just like a total mistake that they back away from afterward. But looking at trying to heal with each other, they share this kiss, which is like I think the big takeaway moment of the issue, which people are like, oh, what's going on here? But they back away very fast after it, and we're like, oh, that was a mistake. But back in the Batcave, Bruce is going over like just Joker files that he has, and then he looks in on a globe showing Alaska because it's cold in Alaska. It's chilly in Alaska. And then we go to the comedian Joker who has Joe Chill, and he's kidnapped him and he's back him in an ambulance, and he's like, all right, put on this gear that makes it look like you're dressed in the same stuff from the night you murdered Thomas and Martha Wayne, and you're going to tell us what you really did to them. As that's our cliffhanger for the final part of this, as it'll happen in, the final issue, which interesting how we're going to wrap all of this up quickly here, as we only got one issue left, but it's, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's actually kind of intriguing and good, and so I'm very still surprised at how we felt about this. When issue 1 came out, Brandon was on the show, and me, Dan, and Brandon all took away the same, like, we liked it and we're kind of surprised by it. And not to go more into the art, but it's still fantastic. This is a great art team, probably best art on a DC book, maybe other than Strange Adventures, but hell of an art team. And then Jeff Johns, for the most part, good. I think the real only issue here is that kiss, and it's I think thematically it just doesn't play. It's kind of a shock moment, but I don't think it truly plays in the way they intended. But other than that, I am kind of if the hook and line and sinker here is you trying to what's going to happen and what's going to happen next, in the sense of what is the matter with all of these three Jokers and how they're going to end this. I actually am intrigued to see how they end it, but we'll open it to the bigger discussion. Dan, anything, how you feel about Three Jokers number 2?
I thought it was pretty good. You really hit on a lot of the points, but yeah, I think the plots, I mean, these are oversized issues. So they really felt like they moved pretty quickly, right? Aren't they oversized?
Yeah, they're I think they're 40, 45 pages, but they move pretty well. Pacing on this has been very, very good.
Yes. I mean, that's really what I enjoy a lot with this, is that I just feel like the story keeps progressing, and obviously for someone like me doesn't really have too much background on these characters, it's pretty approachable. I mean, I don't think we really get bogged down with a lot of backstory on these characters. as long as you kind of know generally who everyone is, you can kind of figure it out. Yeah, I mean, aside from like the really awkward moment with Batgirl and Jason kissing, which was a little weird, I guess. Not really expected there, but um, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the characterization of the Jokers, I think, is pretty spot on. I do enjoy the grouping of all of them together, but yeah, we'll have to see how this was. There's only one more issue, right? And that's it.
Yeah, yeah, one more
Okay.
issue, and that's it. I thought the beginning played out well with the comedian, with his like makeshift believe family. That was kind of a haunting sequence at the beginning. That worked, and all three of them. Well, we're down to two because one got shot in the head in the first issue, but they all have different personalities and they play differently. They're not all the same carbon copy character, and you still get some pretty horrific, horror shots from Fabok and Anderson here with like the moment they find all the failed Joker clone attempts in that pool where they go in that hideout. It's pretty gruesome stuff that happens in there, but it totally works, and I think it's hitting. Which if I was a betting man, I would have thought this was going to flop, but it hasn't, at least in my eyes. And we have three Batman-centric books this week, and I would say that this was probably my favorite and the best of all three of them. And we'll throw it to Vince here for the second of our Batman triple threat here. But no, overall, I liked it and I'm excited to see where it goes. But we'll throw it to Vince for the Batman Superman annual.
Yep, it definitely isn't flopping financially because there are like 200 premium covers for every issue. But over here on the first annual of this series, I'll be surprised if it gets another. I'm not sure how long we should expect the series to last, but it is written by regular series writer Joshua Williamson. Art here by Gleb Melnikov, Dale Eaglesham, and Clayton Henry, who I think we've definitely seen Clayton Henry on this book already, maybe Dale Eaglesham, I think so. I'm not actually keeping up with the regular series, so I'm a little surprised that I ended up with them, but let's go forward. And it was definitely worth the read. So the story starts with two fifth dimension imp children, which I'm not certain exactly how the whole fifth dimension works, but they're playing with Superman and Batman toys that Mixie Pitlick and Batmite have kind of taken back into their dimension from their adversaries. And the two kids, they get too passionate in their play, they get out of control, and they're calmed down by the aforementioned villains, who then get into their little rivalry and fight a little bit. So it's a showdown of two tales. They're like, hey, it's basically who would win, my adversary or your adversary. So Batmite begins a tale, and Superman is somehow causing an anomaly in space-time, and he's making people melt. It kicks off with the entire Bat family melting in front of Bruce's eyes, including subjecting the audience, us, to Jason Todd's stupid new costume, and also subjecting Bruce to seeing Damian die in front of his eyes again. So Batman is very mad about that and sucker punches Clark with a kryptonite ring. He throws everything at Superman: kryptonite, mech suits, magic, doomsday, red sun-powered weapons, and eventually wins by somehow using satellites to turn the Earth's sun from yellow to red, which means that Superman can't fly, and so both of them plunge to their deaths, and presumably the entire Earth is fucked as well, with this drastic change to the status of the sun, the heat and the energy that it outputs, the sunlight. Then Mixie, his version of it involves Superman. At first, I actually think this page is pretty funny because it's the whole who would win in a fight. And so Mixie's like, Superman just punches Batman like on even ground, just right in the chest. And Batman just fucking dies on the ground. It's just two panels, and it's pretty hilarious. But then there's other stuff because Batmite's like, hey, that's not fair. Go further. And then Mixie kind of, I'll get into it more because as the issue wraps up, there's more of a meta element. But Mixie has a cool moment, or maybe it's not a cool moment, where he's just like, I just want to see them fight. Like, I don't care about a story. And I don't know if that's, it's personal opinion and how you look at that. That's either a good thing or a bad thing. but there's more junk going on, and it's just. But it turns out it's not just their fanfic. They're not just making up these stories or anything like that. They're actually manipulating these superheroes, which is teased a little bit as you go along. Mixie gets upset, and he ends his story by just having Superman throw Batman into the sun. And the message here ultimately, as Superman and Batman kind of shake it out and figure out that they're being manipulated and everything, their message is that they would never really fight each other. And as true fans, both referring to Batmite and Mixie, who are essentially fans of Batman and Superman, as well as the audience, us, we should know that Batman and Superman would never get into a legitimate fight. And it ends with a little Crypto and Ace gag fighting over Mixie and Batmite toys, who are actually Mixie and Batmite. This was kind of fun. It's a good message. The art split between the three artists. I'm sure it's something like, one artist covers Mixie's part, one artist covers Batmite's part, and one artist does everything around it. But honestly, I couldn't 100% decipher who was who and when it switches over precisely. And of course, DC doesn't give us specific credits like so-and-so does, pages 11 through 17. So the three artists kind of melded together relatively well, for better or worse. It was, art-wise, it was pretty house-styly, but also writing-wise, this is kind of a house-styly story. And this kind of feels in line with, like, you could imagine this kind of story in like 1980s, like 83 or something, like when like they were leveling up, but it's still pre-crisis, and like height of World's Finest and everything like that. This was a fun story. It's worth the standalone pickup.
Yeah, I remember when we were looking at the solicits last week, we were like, what is this? And it was like, oh, it's Mixie and Batmite story. It's usually going to be pretty fun. And I think it was. In terms of art, I think there was a couple times Batman looked like super Hulk-like, where he was like super big, and then the bat symbol was like in weird dysmorphed placements on his chest. But other than that, for the most part, it looked good, and this was fun. I don't have a lot more to say on it other than I definitely enjoyed it, and like the fact that they came down to like, hey, we're never gonna fight, and they quickly figured it out, made for a fun moment, and was like, hey, we get these characters instead of making an entire movie about building up to them fighting and it only being 5 minutes, because no one wants to see that. But for overall, no, this was fun. So I guess I'll only ask you jumping back on the series. There's a number whatever it was last week, and Dan and I took away liking it. So.
Maybe not. The way I was looking at the series was basically playing it by ear, looking at what the arc is, essentially who the villain is and everything, and then who the artist is. Because as you guys acknowledged last week, all of us skipped the first arc, or at least didn't stick through it, because it was dealing with Batman who laughs and all kinds of stuff, even though they teased us with David Marquez on art, and I don't know where he went to.
He's still doing covers.
Okay. But and then we got wrapped in with the Nick Darrington art with Roz and everything, and that was really fun, and I really enjoyed that. But then the next arc, which I think might be the one you guys are reading right now, the artist just didn't fully pique my interest, and the villains and stuff. I think maybe there was a Parasite thing. I don't know if that's what you guys are reading, or if that was maybe something in between. So I'll play it by ear, and depending on where I'm looking at, also listen to what you guys are thinking as you go along. But I'm not jumping back in. I'm not like, this didn't wrap me in immediately.
Yeah. No, right now it's they're fighting Brainiac and Steel and Batwoman, and it's more of a Steel Batwoman team up than a Batman Superman, which is interesting. So if this kind of becomes a stealth way for Williamson to throw like more Batman Superman centric characters to team up with each other, that'd be fun to see. Because even like, you remember the the later days issues of Superman Batman, it was like, oh, here's Supergirl and Robin teaming up. So that was kind of a fun thing. We'll see if that continues or morphs into that. But the final Batman book for this week, Batman: The Adventures Continue, number 13, or I guess chapter 13, however you want to say it. Alan Burnett and Paul Dini, Ty Templeton, on art, and then colors Monica Cabina. And then we could just get Jason at Leslie Tompkins' clinic stealing some drugs that he's going to need to go after some more targets. Last time we saw it, he captured Tim Drake, so now he's going after Joker. So he goes after Joker, who's trying to get money from the Penguin, and he has to fight that Mr. Wing creature. So it's nice to see that he's come back, because I think we liked him as being a little bit of a weird kind of super crazy souped up henchman. So the whole big fight happens there, and he grabs Joker, and he's got Tim chained up already. So he has him, but of course, the trope of Batman animated series, whenever a Batman character gets tied up by the villain, they always take the utility belt away. So it's like, oh, how are they going to get out? Because they don't have the utility belt. And Batman and Batgirl are on the trail of trying to find him. Well, Leslie Tompkins is like, hey, save Jason and bring him back, see if we can. And they're at an amusement mile, and popping out of like the sewer grate, very, very It inspired. It by Stephen King. Instead of Pennywise in the storm drain, it's Jason Red Hood, who has a dart gun, and he shoots Batman in the chest with it, knocking him out. So he's going to grab the Batman now. So now he's got Joker, Robin, and Batman all chained up for the next chapter. So I don't know if the next one of this is the end. Maybe we're building towards that. Maybe this ends at more of a rounder number, like 15. But I thought this was just okay. Wasn't great. Very fast. And I think any steam that I had in this story is completely kind of knocked out, as it's semi-similar to Under the Red Hood mixed with things we've seen from like Return of the Joker and that continuity in this universe. So we'll see where it goes. But hey, this is still like one of the best colored books, as it just matches the color palette of the show perfectly. But Daniel, thoughts on chapter 13?
Not really much else. I mean, you pretty much hit on a lot of stuff. I mean, I feel like this one in particular, I feel like this one is one of the few issues we've read that really gets as close to the animated series as possible in terms of like the art style, a little bit more, I feel like, and the colors. Like, I just feel like the past issues, for some reason, I know it's the same artist throughout all this, but for some reason, I feel like this issue in particular just feels more cartoonish to me. I don't know if that was just me seeing that, but um,
I
yeah,
mean, the color palette looks better with the colorists jumping in here. There was no inking credit for Templeton on this time, so it looks like he's back to inking himself. I think for like 2 chapters he wasn't, but I didn't notice a massive change in the art. But I don't know. This is like facing a weird like clash of culture at this point for me, because it's like Joker makes a Family Guy reference in this to like the chicken fight,
yeah,
and like that's not even like, in terms of Family Guy, like that's like early season Family Guy. So like that's not even relevant anymore. And it's like 2020, and that's like a 99 2000s Family Guy reference. Dating ourselves longer here, but there's just like, and also like, why would they reference Family Guy and Batman the Animated Series? That doesn't, it just, some things don't sync up here, and it's just like, I don't know what's going on. But within the last few chapters, like something has gone off the rails here, where it's like, well, nothing is completely off the rails, but like the tracks have lifted up and we're colliding to that moment. So we'll see if they stick this landing. You hope to have faith in this team that has, played and messed around in this universe for almost 30 years at this point. But I don't know at this point, man. I don't know what's going to happen with this. But I got nothing else. If you got nothing else, it's Department of Truth time for you.
yeah. So our next issue here is a new #1 this week. As Mike alluded to, Department of Truth, written by James Tynion, with art by Martin Simmons. So we open to Dallas, Texas, the night of the murder of John F. Kennedy, where Lee Harvey Oswald is being questioned when he is told to confess that up is down and down is up. So that's a little weird, a little peculiar there. We then pan to present-day Washington, D.C., where a man named Cole is being brought to the Library of Congress, and he's very nervous. He thinks he's going to be killed, and he is questioned about the conspiracy posting stuff that he does online. I guess he's kind of like a blogger for like the right hand like side of the government, I guess. And all the while, he's still really paranoid about being killed by the FBI. We then get an explanation of Cole's time at a flat Earth conference, where he is approached by two old men who brainwash him and basically bring him onto a plane to like the edge of the Earth, where he actually sees like his own eyes like that the Earth is flat, and they kind of land and they start walking off to this area. And just as they walk off, they find out that there's like an undercover agent that also was on this plane with them that ends up shooting all these like conspiracy people, and that's how Cole ended up coming back um, to the states. So the interrogator kind of explains to Cole who these people are, and basically they go around and they're telling people to believe in something. And if they would have came back to the states, they would have been able to spread all these conspiracies. And basically, the way it works is the more people that like spread a conspiracy, the more it becomes true. And it could have like spelled like doom for the world if they would have came back and spread the knowledge about the Earth being flat. It's a really weird concept. Me explaining it probably doesn't do it justice, but yeah. So he's kind of talking about like the theory behind why these people exist, and Cole's just like being taken away. I guess he's going to be debriefed on all this stuff, and we find out that the interrogator who's been talking to Cole this entire time is actually a very old version of Lee Harvey Oswald, and he is the one who is running the Department of Truth. So that's kind of where our story ends, with Lee Harvey Oswald kind of standing behind a giant insignia of the Department of Truth. So we get some references to other like conspiracies here. Obviously, the moon landing being one of them. We kind of get like a shot of them going into like um this like underground like filming area. So um yeah, so it's pretty cool. But this is probably gonna be another issue for me. I'll give it another shot. Some of the stuff is pretty cryptic. I don't really. It's a little tough to follow some of the logic here, but it has my interest peaked. I mean, with all the conspiracy stuff going on.
It piqued my interest, but I don't think it's going to hold it. Martin Simmons' art here is definitely unique, and I think it actually might fit this story really well. But at the same time, it's not very appealing to me for about half the pages. It's very bleak, it's kind of washed, and it looks kind of outdated, if that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah.
like this book looks like it could be like an early 2000s Vertigo book, or honestly, even like a Spawn spinoff, like Hellspawn by Ashley Wood, or like the latter half of Sam and Twitch with Bendis and Alex Maleev. There's a really gorgeous double page splash, which would work better as just like not related to any comic book, just like a painting or an illustration, because there's no dialogue or anything whatsoever on that page. And then there's this like chick in the red dress, and I don't 100% understand her thing. Kind of slightly reminds me of The Matrix with the whole red dress thing, but it's a striking character design, I guess, among all the mud that is the rest of this book. I think the story here is actually kind of fun, but I don't know that I really want to continue with it.
Yeah.
I could see this appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah. When you talk about the splash page, are you talking about the one where they're at the edge of the Earth?
Yeah, they're in the plane, I guess, and it's like
Yeah.
like a big backdrop. It's a really, really fantastic looking thing, illustration, painting, however he's doing with his media. But I don't know. It was kind of entertaining. I think next issue is something to do with Ronald Reagan
Yeah, I was gonna say like
and
the
Satanic
promo.
Panic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll give it another shot. I think there's enough there that kind of makes me interested in reading it. My dad's like a huge fan of like the whole conspiracy type of stuff as well. So, I feel like he would kind of like this. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, moving into our next book here. back-to-back issue recaps from me. We get Falcon and Winter Soldier number 3, written by Derek Landy, with art by Federico Vincentini, colors by Matt Milla. And Sam and Bucky are at the Naturals' parents' house, who are both huge Cap fans. We saw that in the last issue, and we see like a bunch of like memorabilia and stuff like that. I think Falcon's like sipping from like a old-fashioned like Captain America like teacup or something. And Sam and Bucky inform the parents that the Natural is working with Hydra and that he's not the son they used to have, and they are kind of shocked to discover this and that their son is involved with Hydra. So they basically give them they give them the rundown on kind of where he's at, and he's located in this hideout downtown. And they're like, "We'll tell you where he's at, only if you dress up for us." So we kind of see Bucky dressed up in his Captain America outfit from the Brubaker run, I believe, and we also see Falcon dressed up as, I think from the all new Captain America stuff. I'm not sure if that's the right outfit there, but yeah, they end up finding this boy in the hideout, wearing a blindfold and like holding a gun, and they try to sneak up on him, and he actually jumps the gun on them and basically starts telling them about how great Hydra is and how they're not the villain and how they're soon gonna be appointing a new Hydra Supreme, so like a new leader, and um, yeah, so he's basically telling them all about that stuff, and they're like, "Well, we have to get you out of here. You know that there's you're not this is not you. We need to get you back to your family." And as they're leaving, they kind of get attacked by all these Hydra agents. And before that, though, Sam does get a shield from this guy, so he's able to fight with his shield. And yeah, they're basically fighting Hydra agents for like 3-4 pages on in this book. Bucky's trying to kill them, and Sam's like, "No, let's not kill them. We need information from them on kind of who this new Hydra Supreme is." And they're also looking for a woman named Sally. After all the goons are beaten, the Natural shows up in a Cap-inspired uniform and speaks about how he looked up to Cap as a hero. So we kind of get some flashbacks and stuff like that. The two heroes are able to snap the Natural out of his allegiance to Hydra, as we discover that Veronica Eden is the next Hydra Supreme, which throws all of our heroes for a loop, as I guess this whole issue is kind of building up to the Natural becoming the next Hydra Supreme. That's why they went out to retrieve him. So I guess an interesting plot overall. I kind of get lost a little bit with the characters. Totally forgot about who Veronica Eden was. Maybe it's because this issue is coming out monthly, and I think it's coming out monthly. It's hard for me to kind of keep track of these characters that I don't really care much about, but thought the plot wasn't too bad, but nothing too special here, I guess. And none of my other co-hosts read it, I think, so nothing else to say, I guess.
Well, I mean, before we go into Immortal Hulk Threshing plays, I just want to say, like, I was off of this just because, like, I forgot this book existed and I just didn't remember what was happening, and I was just like, I don't care. So, like, if it was you're down to tell me to, like, I almost use this as like a stealth, like, well, if Dan really liked it, maybe I'll jump back on and catch up, because I think this is only 4 issues or something, maybe 4 or 5 or 6, whatever, a mini series at this point. But it sounds like I haven't lost much of esteem on anything. Clearly, this book was made because there would have no if the world didn't catch on fire, there would have been a Disney Plus series starring these two characters out right now for the cross promotion synergy. But that's delayed, I think, until next year. And getting into MCU news, the only thing we're getting from that realm this year is WandaVision and sometime in December. Everything else got pushed back. So it's another sad thing when we get into Shang-Chi later in the show. But I don't know. What's your takeaway here? Does this book just not work? Is it? I don't know.
I mean, it's all right. It's nothing like too serious. I mean, it's basically what you would expect with this book, right? I mean, it's a team up buddy cop type of thing with the two characters. A bunch of Hydra stuff thrown in there. I mean, it's not too serious. It's a little campy and at times. I mean, I thought like the whole Cap thing with the parents, I thought was a little overdrawn, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think if you find out a book's a million for $4 in a couple years, pick it up. Other than that, though,
Well, all right.
that's what I
I mean,
was
I'll
recommend.
say this: I don't know when Bucky became the "don't kill anyone" guy. He doesn't like. Yeah, he was the Winter Soldier and killed people then, but like his time at Captain America, it wasn't like he was just like busting skulls all the time. So I
Yeah,
don't. Wondering when that became like, oh, he's the Captain America that kills. I was like,
that
well,
was
that's not.
Civil War, the
No,
movie.
he wasn't even involved in Civil War. He was in hiding during that.
Well, no, I'm saying like the movie Civil War
Oh,
when they were like, Bucky, you're gonna kill someone.
yeah, maybe it is that. I don't know. But
Um,
Immortal Hulk time for Immortal Hulk Threshing Place #1, which this is Jeff Lemire and Mike Del Mundo. This is one of the Immortal Hulk one shots that they have placed. I think this was delayed for a while, but now it's happily out. It was a pretty hyped up one shot, so it's exciting to see to now finally have it out there and be able to read it. But it's really just a simple tale of like the wandering anti-hero Hulk, which feels much more in line with the beginning of Immortal Hulk. Like somewhere I could see this taking place in those early, maybe first 8 issues, before Ewing really started laying the groundwork for what's come afterwards here, because it kind of was this kind of book for those first maybe 1 to 10 issues until the groundwork really set in. But Bruce finds the story of a girl that's gone missing in this small town, and he finds like there's gamma related shenanigans planted there, so he heads there to investigate. He finds the father and is almost shot by him, and then the local police come and they rough him up and intervene. They throw him in jail, and then nightfall comes, and Bruce hears the sounds of this monster outside, and he's in the jail cell. And he's like, "Hey, you better let me out because bad shit's going to happen." And of course, we get a Mike Del Mundo horrible, body horror transformation scene of Bruce turning into the Hulk. As the Hulk takes over because the night is his time, and we quickly learn that the lab is like bought out the cops, and then the girl was sadly, caught in this as being part of their experiments, and she's been transformed into this like horrifying monster. But luckily, the Hulk, we get a monster fight briefly as the Hulk's trying to like calm her down, and like he absorbs the gamma energy around her, rendering her back into like a new normal for the girl, and gives her back to her father. But she might never be the same, and we get the very cynical outlook of this Hulk in Bruce. But looking at it, she has her father. Bruce didn't have anyone, so maybe she'll grow up differently. This was good. The Michael Mundo art was pretty good. It looked a little watercolory maybe here, but no, I really enjoyed this. And Jeff Lemire kind of spins a family tale out of this, and the ways he's able to do that using the guys of the Immortal Hulk. I think this is pretty good. Vince was dipped his toes in the water of Immortal Hulk here, so I don't think you're very familiar with the property outside of maybe those 1 or 2 issues from when we did Fresh Start reviews back on another channel like 2 years ago at this point. But what were your thoughts here?
I don't know what you mean by the property. The property is the Incredible Hulk, which was created by Stan
I'm talking
Lee.
about the Immortal Hulk, status quo.
Yeah, no, I read the first issue and I read the 0 issue, which I think was a week or 2 ago. But
that
this was another one-off thing. It's similar to Venom. I'm sure to some extent I'll probably like these series, but I'm just so far behind, and at least for this show, I'm not gonna or haven't had found the time to just binge through and catch up. But this as a little peek, little side story, checked it out. Obviously, I really like the creators involved. The transformation splash page here, very metal. I'm not sure if I really dig that level of body horror going forward indefinitely for the next 100 years of Hulk. Who knows? Immortal Hulk, to my understanding at least, it's a very major status quo shift. Obviously, Peter David did a lot of that too, but there's certain points where you reach with certain characters where it's hard to put things back in the bag. And as someone who is both cynical and, for lack of a better word, conservative, resistant to change when it comes to superhero comic books, those are the kinds of things that worry me. But this story in isolation was really great. And also, I get Marvel's stupid one-shot publishing strategy so they can have 3 freaking issues of this series, which is very successful for them, out in a single month. But back in the day, it's interesting to think that this would probably be the good kind of fill-in, the one that you would actually track down rather than skip, even if you weren't, even if you didn't have a collection of Hulk. So I was thinking of some of the fill-ins in Peter David's run, like there's a Sam Keith issue right before Dale Kuhn takes over. But yeah, this was really fun. I think this is really this is the prototypical Hulk story. This is the thing that people always talk about. The TV show was all hinged on this, and really a lot of the Silver Age as well. And also, not just that thing where Hulk shows up Banner shows up in a town. He gets put in jail, and then it's like, hey, putting Banner in jail, it's always exactly what it leads to. There's at least one very early moment in Peter David's run where Bruce gets put in a jail, and other moments like that. In fact, no, I believe what happens is Bruce drinks a shitload because he thinks that's going to stop the Hulk or throw off the Hulk. So then he gets thrown in the drunk tank, and then the Hulk busts out of the jail, obviously. So this was very much a classic story, but also fits in with the status quo and everything like that. I don't fully like Del Mundo's super exaggerated brow for the Hulk.
Yeah, that looked a little bit odd. I'll agree there.
Yeah, that's something that some artists go to. Like, I don't know if it was early Kirby, or maybe it was the short periods of Ditko, vice versa. I'm not sure. But that kind of super huge, weird, prominent brow, that goes back way early. And then certain artists have leaned into that. Like some of the early Dale Kuhn, or maybe it's mid Dale Kuhn or something like that. Not Joe Fixit, but there's like a period where it's Hulk, where it's still Gray Hulk with him. You had some of that where his brow would sometimes just look really weird, like 5 inches in front of his eyes. That's not my favorite depiction of the Hulk, but overall art, story, message, standaloneness, this was a great issue, definite pickup.
Yeah, it's nice to see it's finally out after being hyped up for months back, and then it got delayed. So it's nice to see that here. I'd like to see Del Mundo come back and do something else. As we've seen Joe Bennett take time off here and there, and we've had different guest artists come in. So it'd be nice to see him. If he ever ever back.
Well, I believe if people are interested in Del Mundo Hulk, I'm pretty sure he did the Planet Hulk Secret Wars tie-in miniseries with Peter David, which I think is some complicated thing where it involves Maestro and like multiple Hulks, and it's during Secret Wars, Battle Zone, War Zones, whatever. But if you want to see him drawing Hulk, actually, I don't know. Maybe that wasn't him, because he also did the Weird World. I don't know.
Well, with that, we'll have Daniel back to talk about Shang-Chi #1.
Yes. So get into our next book here. We have Shang-Chi #1, written by Jean Luen Yang, art by Dake Ruan and Philip Tan, and colors by Sebastian Cheng. I wonder why this series exists. Another one of those MCU promo time series, I guess. So our story opens in China during the early Qing dynasty, where men are about to be executed this before these sorcerers kind of show up and save the day. And as they're escaping, they actually run into Fing Fang Foom, and we see them kind of jumping to attack the dragon, but we don't actually see any fight scenes. We then kind of get some background, some exposition building on the Five Weapon Society, where we discover their leader, Zhang Zhu, was killed by his son Shang-Chi. So we kind of get some backstory on that. In present day, we then see Sister Hammer and Brother Staff fight each other over Staff's direction of the Five Weapons Society. So this society has continued throughout the years, and now Brother Staff is leading the group. Well, he doesn't lead him for much longer because Hammer actually kills Staff and proclaims herself the new leader as she sends warriors to America to find Shang-Chi and to kill him. So, meanwhile, in San Francisco, we meet Shang-Chi, who is working in this like food shop where he is working with this like grandmother figure that is actually giving him free housing. And he runs into the owner's niece. I think her name is Denise or something. Um, I forget what her name is. I should probably should have written that down. Anyway, um, so he runs into her, kind of talks to her a little bit, and apparently she gives him her number. So Shang-Chi then chases this like other woman he sees like running on the rooftops. Her name is Liko Wu, and she's like a British M6 agent type of person that's had a history with Shang-Chi in the past. And she informs him about the Five Weapons Society and stuff like that that's coming. And just as they're talking about that, the goons kind of come crashing through the windows of the apartment, where they actually find out that they're there to warn um, Shang-Chi about Sister Staff, and are basically asking him to come back and take his right as the leader of the group, and basically telling them that like um, the sister is going crazy and they need to stop her. So he's like at first he's like, I'm not gonna do that. And then he realizes who's the person who's actually like taking over the group is his little sister. And he's like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's his little sister. And he's like, I need to go after her and try to stop her and try to like talk her out of what she's doing. Meanwhile, we see like the final splash page has like the two faces kind of split down the middle, and we have Shang-Chi kind of saying he needs to speak with his sister, and then the sister's like, I need you to kill him because the goons come back and we're like, yeah, we failed, we couldn't kill Shang-Chi. So she's like, I guess I'm gonna have to go out there and kill him myself. So some motivation there, I guess. Definitely probably not the same type of plot we're probably gonna see in the movie, I would assume. Obviously, they want to make sure they try to separate those two universes, obviously, but I think this is a decent first issue. I mean, the exposition part didn't feel too like bored for me. Didn't feel like too bored by that. Um, obviously they're trying to humanize Shang-Chi as much as possible, make him relatable, which I think they did in this issue. But yeah, I mean it's pretty obvious what the story's going to build up to. I don't know how long this story's going to this series is going to go for. I don't think it's going to go for more than probably 6 or whatever issues. I'm not sure if it's a mini series or what, but um, yeah, I thought this was decent. What did you guys think?
This is going to be 5 issues, and if you're wondering, his father for the movie is going to be the Mandarin.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think the movie's title. It's going to be what, Shang-Chi and the Order of the Ten Rings or something. I think that's what they're going with. Which, all right, fine, whatever.
Mhm.
Sounds neat. It looks like it's just going to be like a James Bond movie or something. But focusing on this, I like Gene Luen Yang a lot. I think this is a rare miss. There was way too much exposition here. And then, Shang-Chi doesn't show up until much later in the book, and then it's more exposition dump, an action scene, and then boom, cliffhanger, and 5 issues, and I don't really get the vibe of what we're getting into here. Um, I don't want to draw comparisons to it, but you look at this and you look at Firepower, kind of similar characters in the terms of what they've set up here. In one book, 3 issues in, boom, boom, boom. We know what the stakes. We know our players. We know what we're doing. This felt like a draft that wasn't necessarily finished or cut down in terms of the editing on it, to more streamline this. I don't know what exactly didn't hit here, but in terms of pacing and exposition, it was off, and there's too much of it. But I thought the art was good. I liked the art, and I liked seeing Shang-Chi just being a guy living in San Francisco, working like a kitchen. I thought that was kind of a different aspect for him. Is he's either an Avenger or he's a secret agent. But in terms of reintroducing him to an audience again, because yes, he has a movie now. I do want to say when Dan said forced movie synergy or forced MCU, this is not like the MCU version. In case to catch on words here, now this is like 616, but there's a movie coming down the line. Of course, everything got delayed until 2021 in terms of this movie. I don't even know if they're filming it right now. They began production of it, but yeah, I don't know what exactly went wrong here in terms of it didn't hit, and I don't know if I wasn't drawn in here, so I think this is a one and done for me, and maybe come back to it when it's collected.
Yeah, this didn't work for me pretty much at all. I didn't even think of the firepower comparison until you mentioned it, and that is a very unfortunate comparison. They finally get a Shang-Chi book out again, and Robert Kirkman has a perfect martial arts comic book running. But yeah, Shang-Chi himself, like there's one panel where it says, hey, this is Shang-Chi, but in the present, as himself, doesn't appear in this comic book called Shang-Chi #1 until page 10. I definitely would not have kicked off a first issue like that, let alone for a lower tier character like this, who hasn't starred in his own series since 2002, except for like a one-shot from Marvel Legacy, which its whole point was, hey, he hasn't had a series in forever, or again, a Secret Wars tie-in miniseries, which is not canon and really relied more on Iron Fist mythology. And also, again, this character, as mentioned, has a movie coming up, so you want to hit strong here and establish some fans and get people hyped for the movie. To further complicate things, depending on how you look at it, depending on how much you know from the past, Shang-Chi is just kind of fucked as a character. So he was originally spun out of a Sax Rohmer license, which is a literary thing, with his father being Fu Manchu. So he's kind of a licensed character, but kind of not. And so that's why Marvel, for years and years, never reprinted the original run until very recently. And even though they re-upped that license in order to do that reprint, before that, and they've clearly stuck with it in this series, they've retconned him to shit. So his father is no longer Fu Manchu. His father is Zhu Zhang or whatever, generic martial arts dude. And now I also forgot that the movie is possibly making his father Mandarin. So you've got 3 messed up versions. And this just made, like, this series, especially the fact that it has so much exposition and is leaning on this so much, this is just kind of like, it feels more like a generic martial arts, ancient legacy thing, which is honestly closer to Iron Fist besides the dumb white savior angle, rather than the original Shang-Chi stories in Master Kung Fu. It was basically like, here's James Bond with karate, or whatever his martial art is. And there were different eras of it where it was more psychedelic, where it was more slick, like Steranko inspired kind of thing. And this just feels like a martial arts movie that you have to watch with subtitles or something, even though it's obviously not. It's published by Marvel Comics. It's in English. It's just didn't work for me. And also, I feel like this is, and maybe this is movie related as well, this feels like it's kind of aging him down. He seems slightly younger, a little bit visually, but in story, and a little bit, I don't want to say immature, but like my impression was always that Shang-Chi was a little bit more of like a self-serious character. And I'm going to make the comparison again to Danny Rand, just because they're, analogs in the Marvel universe. Danny Rand is much more jokey, has the, buddy cop thing with Luke Cage for a lot of his stories. But here he's like working at a bakery when he's like usually a super spy. It's just odd. Maybe that's what they're going for in the movie. I don't know. But as I said, there are certain things in here that they're probably not doing in the movie. And this arc, at least from what the first issue teases, hinges entirely on that ancient martial arts lore that's been retconned. He also has a boring costume that they've tried to put him in the modern era. Like way back, when he was not, wearing a suit or just in normal clothes, he was just doing, what a martial artist would wear. Not a gi, but like he was just shirtless. And I guess they wanted a more distinctive costume. So he just wears this really boring costume in the few pages that he's in costume.
I wouldn't even call it a costume. It's just like Under Armour, essentially.
Yeah. And I don't know. This didn't really connect with me at all. The pacing and the exposition dumps were just total killers for it. I wasn't super impressed by the art. This is a nope for me. And I will say I'm slightly disappointed. I love the idea of Shang-Chi, and I'm really excited to finish out the finally reprinted original run and dive deep into that and have that on my shelf and everything.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We obviously, it doesn't even need explained. You cannot use Fu Manchu. You cannot do it.
Well, they kind of can and they kind of can't. I mean, he's technically relicensed right now, and that's how they're able to reprint it.
Also a racist character. There's no way you're getting away with that, nor should you do that. So that change, I think Brubaker made that change back in Secret Avengers, and I think it worked there. I liked that story in Secret Avengers, and that was kind of like, at least for me, the last time I saw him. So yeah, I don't know what's going on here. It just didn't hit. And for a writer we really like, I think arguably, and if you look at books of 2019, 2020, how it lies, if me and Vince were to sit down, and Dan included, if we were to say what were our favorite trade paperbacks of the year or collected editions, even though it came out in issues, but I'd say Superman Smashes the Klan might be number one for maybe me and Vince in terms of what came out based on new comics of last year. So to ride that high to come to this, it's disappointing. But not everything's a hit. But hopefully, if it gets better, I'll definitely won't hesitate to go check back in. But as of right now, it just didn't hit for me.
So Dan, you're definitely giving it an issue 2. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'll probably give it another issue. See what's up.
All right. The next issue, Strange Academy number 3, written by Scotty Young, art by Humberto Ramos. So the Ancient One is trying to teach the students how to tap into the Eye of Agamotto and open their third eyes. And he kind of just gives a very quick explanation like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a thing that only one person can use, and it's reserved for the Sorcerer Supreme. But like, you 20 kids are somehow they just kind of brushed it away, whatever. And of course, only the main character, Emily, succeeds in tapping into that power. And she's able to see these xenoplasmic parasites and stuff, which was a thing that, I don't know if he created it, maybe not, but it was a thing that Jason Aaron, in his Doctor Strange run, really leaned into in his opening to show, especially with Chris Bachalo on art, to have a very distinctive look and, nail how Doctor Strange is such a different book. So we get some cool art here. And I think Humberto Ramos and Chris Bachalo, their kind of cartooniness and exaggerated figures and how they can do monsters and things like that. They both have very complementary style. So this series really does feel, and not just in this moment, this feels like a pretty interesting companion or successor to the Jason Aaron Doctor Strange run, which is a pretty solid run. Then I guess it was Friday, just like it's Friday as we're recording this. So all the kids are like, it's our weekend. And apparently, I don't know how long they've been in school. Maybe this is issue 3 and they're just through their first week, but they haven't really explored much. And the school is based in the middle of New Orleans, undercover. So they head into town and explore the actual city. They stop at a voodoo museum and they have an iffy encounter with a psychic reader. There's kind of a tease that Doyle, I think his name's Doyle. He's Dormammu's son. There's kind of a tease that he's going to be tied up in some stuff. Maybe he's going to turn evil, or maybe he can prevent it. Some of the friends who get split up because they split up and some people went different ways. Some of them get accosted in an alley by some thugs. So everyone regroups to help them out. There's kind of a high noon situation where it's like, hey, are we going to use our magic and just brutalize these guys? But then Emily, the main character, taps into her what she just learned and kind of presents that kind of extra level of reality to these thugs, which scares them away. Then that's basically it. They go and eat beignets, which are very tasty if you're ever in New Orleans. But in the background, in the end of the story, they're stalked by some creepy dudes who want to eat them or eat their magic. And they look pretty much like old school Groot. Like, old Tales to Astonish monster giant Groot, except not giant, just like that head in a generic wizard robe. And then as extra content in the back of the book, there's some recipes. I was very excited because I think it would be cool if there was just straight up like a recipe for beignets and for gumbo in this book. But no, it's like mostly fictionalized. It's like, use this fake ingredient. But this is a fun book. 3 to 4 of the characters or so are really fun, and I've grown to like them. And now that they've actually explored New Orleans, I was thinking of various other characters that can pop up. Obviously, we know some of the teachers at the school, but it's New Orleans. Can we get a Gambit guest appearance? Obviously, Magic is one of the teachers, so they have a potential X-Men and mutant connection. And then if you want to stretch the voodoo theme, even though I don't think he's really ever in New Orleans, he's usually in the Caribbean, but you could have the zombie show up, who's a cool cult classic character. I'm really enjoying this book. I hope it lasts at least 12 issues. The Umberto Ramos art, like I said, I think it fits this teen book, obviously with his pass on impulse. I think it fits the magic and the monsters and things like that with his cartoony, exaggerated style. And except there's the one moment where the rest of the kids show up to the alley to defend their friends. And the main character in the front of the page, they're supposed to be like, they're supposed to be posing to like be threatening and intimidating and protect their friends. But the main character goes like, she's like in this pose. She's like slumped over with like her neck absent. It's very weird. And I know some of my friends and co-hosts do not like Umberto Ramos, so I figured I'd at least throw in at least one art nitpick. Now, you guys don't read this book, so that's that. I would recommend, I don't know if you would check it out, but it's a fun book. But Wonder Woman number 763, written by Mariko Tamaki and art by Carlo Barberi, which I will get to more later. So Emma, who is our new, exciting, promising supporting character turned twist ending villain, she explains that she did all this mess controlling people and causing violence for her absent father, Max Lord. And she wanted to give him the chance to kill Wonder Woman. And he tells her off. He's like, if you want to be a Lord, even though I've never met you before, we do our own thing. Then she turns her rabbit into a giant monster. And that doesn't do anything. Like we don't even we see some of that like energy in the background, but we don't see that monster besides one panel. Wonder Woman doesn't fight it or anything like that. I don't know what the point of that was. For some reason, then Max messes with Diana's head, so she can't hear Emma like whining and yelling at her and mad. I don't get this. I guess the actual purpose was to essentially put a block on Diana's mind so that Emma couldn't manipulate Diana's mind. I think that's the idea. But it's just weird where like it's implied, Emma's yelling at her while Wonder Woman slowly walks towards her and uses her lasso and stuff like that. And Diana, the thing is, it's presented as her like relating to Emma for having a screwed up father relationship and a childhood of lies and revelations and everything like that. But I'm pretty sure it's just inner narration. So it doesn't really connect. Like, it's not like Emma is connecting with her on the other side on this or even hearing her. And then Emma nearly kills her dad. and then the story just kind of ends. She's put in a freaking straitjacket in prison. I'm not certain how old she was. That was never. I guess she had her own apartment, so she's got to be over 18. But the way she's drawn, I was kind of thinking, like, is she like 14 years old or something? But not before kind of teasing her dad and talking about the next snap, which I guess is teased in continuity or teased alternate continuity by way of the stupid source wall, Scott Snyder garbage. But maybe Max doesn't know about that due to shitty reboot stuff. I don't fully understand the status quo of that. And I'm not certain if Diana knows about that or remembers that. The rabbit, meanwhile, Diana takes the rabbit, I think his name's Mulaney, and there's kind of a tease that the rabbit's still clearly not safe. Maybe Emma has a connection to the rabbit that she can do remotely. Max is now working with Diana more, so that's our status quo for the foreseeable future. And the next issue/arc, they're going to Miami, which potentially there's some fun there. But the main thing here, Carlo Barberi was still pretty meh. Probably worse this issue. I know you guys, when I tag in them, are more critical, but it doesn't quite work, especially with some of the things here. This Etta Candy design, and especially drawn by Barberi, I think is absolutely horrendous. I don't know why this is a thing. I hate it on so many levels. And then it's not just the art. I'm not going to just put it all on Barberi. Some of the dialogue and narration here from Tamaki was really clunky, in my opinion. Edis says the word frack, and there's some cringe about, I guess Emma was able to exert some of her powers because she made a selfie app, and just the dumb element of that, but then Max Lord trying to talk about selfies and creating apps and the younger generation. And I got to be honest, the way it's looking right now, the series took a nosedive. I would say, I think Janin officially drew the first 2 issues, but I'm just going to say from the first issue, which we slightly differed, but my take was I really love the first issue. I think it was both an exciting tease of the run to come, but also did enough to, for whoever the hell doesn't know who Wonder Woman is, it was a good display of her powers and some feats, a little snippet of her origins and things like that, and a good capture of her characterization, introducing this new character that we thought would potentially be a supporting character, but there was a little bit of a tease. Now, until further notice, this is just another run-of-the-mill DC book with inconsistent house style art. They'll tease you with the first issue of a run with a great artist, and maybe they'll come back every 5 issues and just totally kill the momentum of the series and make the trade have 10 credits on it. This is very disappointing. I might drop this book. It's just incredibly frustrating.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy, would be the way to say it. I don't know how, I don't like being critical and being down on creators because people put a lot of work into this. But I don't know how you can look like this is Wonder Woman, the third pillar of DC's heroes trinity. How is this passable? Like, it is that bad. And you talk about the Etta Candy design being bad. When Janet drew it, it wasn't that terrible. Like, she looked like a normal human being. She looks like a square with the head on the page. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And then you get into it with the story. Like, holy shit, this ran off the rails. Like, her entire motivation for killing her mom is because her mom lied to her once. Like, what? What? Like, I don't get it. Like, what was this? Like, we looked at the first 2 issues. I came away liking the first issue. I was like, it's very much an issue 1, but holy crap, there's some promise here. And what? Some simple math. This is what, 4 issues later? What the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's just this feels like a completely different book from when I first jumped on the series. I mean, I think the first issue I read with Wonder Woman was like that first issue with like the artist, and I thought the story was pretty good. But I mean, yeah, it's just nosedive these like last 3 issues, I think. And yeah, it's honestly I feel like it's like the artist or the writer trying to one up each other on who can do the worst job on this. I mean, it's just yeah, it's and it is sad. It is sad that this character has a movie coming out, and obviously, like you said, Wonder Woman's the third pillar to that triumvirate of DC, and it's just this does not feel like it in any sense. I mean, this just even the scale of what Wonder Woman's dealing with, I just don't. I just feel like this is so like underwhelming and just so like I don't know. This doesn't feel like a Wonder Woman book to me. I don't know. I haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman stuff, but I
well,
don't.
you look at motivations for Max Lord's daughter. Like I said, her motivation for being angry and wanting to go after Max is because her mom lied to her, so she takes her car that her mom's driving and forces her to kill herself with her mind powers. Like, there's no motivation there. There's no motivation there that makes any sense whatsoever.
Nope.
The source wall stuff is like that's the semi-interesting point for me here on who remembers what, because I think we saw earlier that Max at least remembers like the JLI days or something, and maybe like the some of the crises are spotty for him, but like, and then Vince touched on the dialogue moments where it's like freaking and like I think one's like fudging and one's like fracking. Just like if you want to swear, just censor it. Like, don't do that. Like, that's worse. I'm disappointed. Like, I'm not off of it yet. Like, I want to wait and see what happens. Like, because Max Lord having to work with Wonder Woman is kind of an interesting premise. Like, I'm down for that and see what they do with it. But this didn't hit. I don't know what the hell happened, but this did not hit.
Yeah. Allegedly, the next issue is drawn by Janin, and they're going to Miami. So Diana and Max Lord in Miami, drawn by Mikkel Janin. There's potential that it's going to be a really fun.
Barbarian back for 5 more issues, because then I don't give a shit.
Yeah, there's potential that the next issue is going to be a really fun rebound, but then when he doesn't draw the very next issue, I might have to drop this book, which is disappointing because again, the Wonder Woman should be their third biggest character. I mean, I would say like fourth. I think Batman should be like their third biggest character, and they should actually respect Captain Marvel. But that's an entirely different, very deep rabbit hole. But this character should have the prestige treatment. And you look at Batman, where James Tynion has had Guillaume March, Jorge Jimenez, Tony Daniel, and is getting like promotion out the asshole for Joker War. Every single other book is tying into it. And you can't get Mikkel Janin on. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's never done a monthly book. I swear he did for Grayson. But like, I don't know. If you want Wonder Woman to be good, maybe make it bi-monthly. Like, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spend longer getting angry at this because I don't like doing that. But I don't know if there's ever been a time of reading comics like week to week where I didn't like any of the main books for the Trinity characters, because I don't like the Superman books with Bendis. We tried tying in Batman and we couldn't get into it, but after Joker War, we might come back and see what it does, because I think that's more of a story thing and not a thing on him. And then there's this where it's just like started great. First 2 issues were great. And then this just took a nosedive. Like, I don't know that if there's ever been a time when the Trinity books, I didn't like any of them, which is crazy to say.
I mean, you sort of like Detective.
But that's not, I'm talking about Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, not like they're adjacent second titles.
It would be just talking about major characters and pillars, and then you literally just saying adjacent titles just now. It'd be amazing if we could get to an era where Wonder Woman has 2 monthly titles.
Why doesn't she have 2 monthly titles? Superman has 2 monthly titles. Batman has 2 monthly titles. Why doesn't Wonder Woman?
I mean, I don't think it's been the case since like 1951 or something. Except for certain periods when there's been anthologies, like they did have the anthology Sensation Comics, but that was at the same time that Batman and Superman also had anthology books and their 2 titles. So,
well, I just like she has like Wonder Woman has multiple miniseries going up, but like she does not have a always going second title, which she should.
Yeah, it would be awesome if we could get to that period where DC has and a lot of it is on the market in the fans supporting Wonder Woman, but if you're not bringing a good Wonder Woman title, they're not going to support the title. So, I don't know. Let's move on.
Let's move on. That Texas Blood, number 4. This is Chris Kahn and Jacob Phillips. Focusing on the narrative structure, I would say this is where the spiral is starting to begin for our protagonist and Randy. So he's back in his childhood home, and all of those demons and vices we've seen him allude to, and that past he's been trying to shy away from, are all like coming back and flooding him as he's like pulling out everything around this house and getting reacquainted with it. We get Sheriff Joe still investigating the murder and asking around as that trail of his, Randy's murdered brother is kind of going cold, but he can't fight that feeling that something bad is about to happen. And it's right around the corner. And then, last we see Randy's girlfriend on her way to Texas as she's going to see Randy after being explicitly told, hey, stay away. I don't want you in this. So we're going to get those 2 worlds, start colliding with, we see the more happy, optimistic version of Randy and those like the small moments we've seen with him and his girlfriend wanting to protect her from this, dark, desolate Texas world that he's escaped from. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those 2 worlds collide and how his girlfriend's going to react to the true Randy that possibly she might see coming out of this. But as always, stellar stuff here. Jacob Phillips, we commend his art and his pencils, but we really got to commend his coloring here. This cover, this was our cool cover Friday, or cover of the week, if you will, for that reason. Absolutely beautiful skyline, just landscape scene landscape on an 8x10 vertically, but no, this was this whole issue was great with the sunsets and the different day periods. Everything about this great, but it gets to that point where you start to run out of things to say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of my favorite parts from this issue was when Randy's walking through the house and he's kind of just like getting pissed about different things, and he's like throwing stuff around and breaking like bottles and everything that's in his like brother's house, I guess. Or the childhood home, sorry. But yeah, I mean those pages I think were like probably the most like impactful for me in this issue. But yeah, I mean, just like you said, this is on par with all the other Sean Phillips stuff we've seen. Well, his father obviously, but yeah, I mean it's good. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
This is still stellar. I think some of the monologuing slightly straddles the line. I know Condon is relatively new to comics, but that's kind of in the noir tradition, so he kind of gets a pass for it. Other than that, at times, I think this actually uses comic storytelling really well. There's lots of quiet pages. The layouts are appropriately used for pacing or mood. The colors absolutely kill it. We already, we cover that every issue. Obviously, Jacob Phillips kind of trained himself, or at least professionally, is first known as a colorist. The main character, and just for the dumb Easter egg, the main character's name is Randy Terrell, apparently, which because there's like a fake in-story article at the end, I believe, and he signs it R. Terrell, and it's very close to Ray Terrell, who is the Ray. It's just the dumb connections I make with things. But yeah, this is a really fun book. I hope this goes far. If this lasts a while as well. I hope it's doing well.
Well, I can't remember if you were on the. I don't think you were on the show the last time we covered issue 3, but in that back matter material, Condon wrote that he's got like 28 to 30 issues planned, which is like, wow, I did not expect that. So like, we because if you isolate it, issue 1 is almost like a lead-in, while issues I think 2 through 6 are going to be all one contained story. So after that, do we go to a new story? It seems exploring this world of Texas within itself, which that sounds really kind of cool to way to just almost keep it going as like a legacy book, or like it's not legacy, I can't get the right name of it, but just like do that like it's like an American Horror Story or a Twilight Zone kind of deal. Every kind of season or story arc is different.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic if it lasts that long. There's kind of it's hard to say based on the creator's situations and where it hits initially and where it falls. There's kind of a sweet spot where you'd be surprised how few copies an Image book can sell, but yet Image and the creators will, they can get 20, 30 issues out of it before they call it quits. So I'm hoping it gets that.
I think in terms of press and reviews, it's doing very, very well. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah.
All right. X-Men time.
Yes. On the other side, X Factor number 4, written by Leo Williams, art by Carlos Gomez. This is chapter 2 of 10 of Swords, and surprisingly, the only X book this week. Sort of. So back in Krakoa, they are hauling the dead and injured back. Saturnine closes the gate, and that gets Krakoa mad, so it just causes an earthquake, which I think is kind of funny. Polaris is real upset about stuff. She kind of blames herself for certain things because, Rockslide got sliced in half with a sword, and your powers are magnetism. I don't know why they don't just send... Polaris better be involved in this shit because this is 10 of Swords. Everyone's going to be swinging swords. Just haul out Magneto and Polaris and just hand them all the swords and just slice everyone to bits. So I imagine that Polaris is going to play a crucial role in this entire thing, and that does become the case as this issue proceeds. There's a weird precedent here set where war casualties get priority for resurrection, which I don't know how that's the priority here when in every other ongoing title, there have been deaths arguably from war, like the whole thing with the Russian group and then the human supremacist group and everything. It's those aren't war casualties. Historically since, everything X-Men is a war casualty if you look at it, from the certain X-Men perspective. But further than that, something is screwed up in the process, but it's actually not the process. So essentially Rockslide comes back deformed and whacked out, and he doesn't know his own name. So it turns out that dying in Otherworld screws up your Cerebro backup thingy. But that's what they think, but not really. It's some complicated mess that they don't really understand either. But what happens is the old you is 100% dead and gone, as far as we know. But you are resurrected, but the resurrected version is kind of like a roll the dice. It's either if you take every alternate universe / dimension version of yourself and combine them, or you pull a random one, or you create a new one. So you're resurrected, but you're not you. You're a new you that has no relation. It's very strange. Emma is really pissed about this, whereas Professor X is kind of just oh, this is the thing. And the 5 are this is the thing, we should know about it. We're going to deal with it. Well, meanwhile, Rockslide is in the corner, falling apart. But Emma's really pissed about it because obviously she, honestly, more than most X-Men, has a lot of experience with dead kids. And Rockslide was a Hellion, was her student specifically. And this is fucked for me because I actually really like Rockslide. I think he's a super underrated character. His friendship with Anil. And then Magneto randomly acts like a total dick to his daughter. I get Magneto is very back and forth with his characterization, but this felt a little off. And Polaris is also acting like really flustered and very self-conscious and everything, which also, like, the sad thing is that's in character, but only because like every single writer ever has fucked up Polaris. And I guess because her dad yelled at her like an asshole, she starts speaking in tongues and stating the prophecy of the 10 swords, which Saturnine has placed in her head. And then she goes and builds a stone circle in the ground out of a Rockslide's corpse. And it just gets weirder and weirder. And then Cypher, in a data page, deciphers some of the champions and the swords. Well, really just the champions. So we have Magic, and she's the first one to step up. She already has her sword, the Soul Sword. And then these are all assumptions based on Cypher, and I'm not sure if it's the full list. They may have just revealed the entire thing right here. I thought it would be more of a drawn-out process. But Cable is probably involved in whatever stupid sword he has. Douglock, Cypher and Warlock themselves. Storm, Wolverine and the Muramasa Blade. Some variation of the Braddocks. I mean, it's got to be Betsy because she's the actual mutant. But it's unclear if it's her or Brian. I mean, it could also be their other brother whose name I'm totally blanking on right now. Gorgon. He's the real curveball here out of this list because he's a stupid Wolverine character, a villain basically. I think he's created by Mark Miller and John Romita Jr., but I think he also gets wrapped in the stupid Wolverine Origins series. And then Apocalypse is one of them as well. Overall, this issue, pacing was iffy. I mean, it was kind of destined to that because it's chapter 2 out of 22, so this was all set up. That's inevitable. I mean, the art, I like Carlos Gomez. It's not fantastic here. He's got a lot of weird stuff going on, but the art's fine. I think his style actually fits Polaris really well. There's actually a couple moments where it kind of reminds me of, I don't know, I guess he has a little bit of Art Adams in some of his faces. That's what I was thinking of. And I think Art Adams has like 1 or 2 Polaris covers that I'm thinking of for comparison. But I don't know, like 4 of the characters are out of character here. They killed Rockslide. I'm not happy about that. And 20 more chapters to go.
Yeah, 20 more chapters to go. I'll read it in trade. I tried chapters 1 and 2. And it's a weird thing. We got 1 the last 2 weeks, and there's like 3 or 4 next week. I'm not committing to that. I can't do it. I'm just not wrapped up into it. And the weird characterizations are all over the place. Carlos Gomez's art was great here. I liked it more than David Baldione, who was doing X Factor before this 22-part crossover started. Weird that we just completely got rid of the X Factor costumes. I mentioned that the last time, though, because they were just introduced in like issue 2. So yeah, I mean, I felt like we were going to get to that point where we're like, all right, we had to introduce the stakes for because once you put in if you die you can just come back, you have to change that up because of this huge crossover to make it have some stakes to it. But I'm just I'm not drawn in the Araco and then Otherworld. It's there's so much crap going on that I'm just I'm not drawn in. But
What?
if I hear good and it's successful and if it all ends fine, I won't hesitate to check back in when the trade paperback or the hardcover is out, and then I'll catch up with that. But for right now, I'm bowing out for the X-Men books for the time being for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna slowly wade into next week, and if it's just too much with 3 chapters, maybe I bounce that week, or maybe I'm just gonna take it week by week and see when I tap out. I don't know. I can't commit either way still. And also, I just want to talk about the whole Otherworld loophole for the resurrection. It's I'm personally mad that the character they chose to explain it, but it's a kind of clever loophole for the status quo. It makes sense that they were going to find a loophole along the way. But also, like, assuming these character selections are correct, like these characters, Magic, Cable, Storm, Wolverine, Betsy Braddock, do we expect any of those characters to actually die? And if they do die, like, it's obviously not going to be permanent. It's just like, I've kind of come full circle where it's like Hickman says, hey, there's no such thing as death. That's not permanent. Kind of turning the whole thing on its side, because the whole thing with superhero comics since the past 30 years is, hey, this character's dead for stupid drama reasons. Oh, now they're back. Now they're dead again. Now they're back. And he just kind of leaned into that and took away the stakes, but also raised the stakes or something. But now it's come full circle where it's like, now I hate this even more, to be honest.
Well, that's what we've gotten ourselves into.
And I was joking about, I mean, not joking, but I was talking about how Immortal Hulk, you've made a huge change and it's hard to put it back in the bag. This is like that. This is the biggest level of that ever. And
yeah. And at least with Immortal Hulk, it's just a different Hulk personality with unlocking some more gamma characteristics of those gamma, radiated characters.
Yeah, but
we're just adding to the lore. This is Hickman's, style is, let's take it and do like this whole hyper reboot, but respecting and taking all the history and be like, it all happened, but in these different ways. But and then now we can't go back. Like, you can't back out of that. Well, I guess you could if you do, some time travel shenanigans with Moira. But you got one more book here. We're running long, so let's wrap this show up.
Right. Then our weird thing here, Giant Size X-Men Tribute to Wine and Cockrum. It's a very strange title. I'm not 100% certain what Marvel wants the title to be. So what this issue is, what this thing is, it's literally Len Wein's script for Giant Size X-Men #1, and the layouts with the art from Dave Cockrum as well. But every page is separately redone by a different artist. But it's not, I didn't actually place it side by side next to the original, but I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same layouts and character poses and angles and everything like that. It's literally just the creators redrawing it. They're not like reinterpreting the script. So we have 58 creators here total across various disciplines. Given the structure, it's not like anyone brings huge surprises. Some artists are more interesting than others, especially when you line them up page to page like this. I'm very curious how the assignments worked. Could artists pitch in their names? Like, did they put out a call to like 150 artists and say, who's going to come back? Who's going to come back first? Who's going to come back that we really like? Or did some editor just pin it all down? Did someone that they really want not be able to pitch in? I don't know. And now I'm just going to highlight or comment on just a couple pages because there's not really much else to say here except for something later. The first splash page is by Alex Ross. The colors and lighting feel slightly off to me. It's not like the super S tier Alex Ross, in my opinion. I've honestly never totally liked the way that Ross depicts certain materials, for lack of a better term, with his lighting and with his rendering. Primarily Iceman, who's a very small part of this image, but also Colossus. Like, he does this super glossy Colossus. I don't really like it, honestly. There's a page Marguerite Sauvage does Storm. I thought that was I was surprised that was a really big highlight for me. Mark Brooks gets the second splash page with his kind of realism light style. And that's the classic page of the all new X-Men team, kind of like flanking the stairs in front of Professor X as the new team. Brooks' Storm also looks amazing. And I like his Colossus, which is far less glossy. Chris Anka has a page here, and it's a style that I don't immediately register as him. It looks a little bit more retro. It's not quite what I'd think of as him, but he has a very badass Cyclops entrance. And I'm just going to guess, I feel like he's intentionally, slightly jokingly going for a little bit of homoeroticism with his posing for Cyclops. And I can respect that. The Phil Noto page here underwhelms, honestly. Joshua Cassara gets to draw Wolverine slicing up crabs, which is very nice because, he draws X-Force with Wolverine ostensibly as the star, and I think those weird Cohen crabs really fit his style. Javier Rodriguez is here. Damn, I really miss seeing pages from him. I just want to get another History of the Marvel Universe. He should do what Ed Piskor did with X-Men, but take it seriously. Jen Bartel does get Storm for 3 panels, but her style, my take, is that it just doesn't work perfectly. She's not a good fit for sequentials, at least very mainstream sequentials. She's one of the best cover artists, and I could see her on certain other kinds of stories, and she's done other kinds of stories like an Image, but it didn't wow me here. Raza, another guy I think it's a guy who's known for covers. His interiors, this page, to be honest, I thought it was gross. This page looks terrible. Then in the back, the extra content, we have interviews with the widows of both Len Wein and Dave Cockrum. There's just a few nuggets of worth to me in them. Honestly, I didn't actually bother reading this book, like as far as the dialogue and the actual script, because why the hell would I? I've read this book 100 times and it's exactly the same, except that it's not. They point out that very minor changes were made to the script for this edition. I think it's primarily referring to the Thunderbird section and some of the language about Native Americans. I don't think there would be much in the other questionable ones would probably be Storm. I don't know. I don't think so, but that would be my second guess, and maybe Nightcrawler. Who knows? But I don't know. I think that's kind of dumb. And then Len Wein's widow does claim he was writing 5 books at a time, which is why he handed X-Men off to Claremont. I'm not sure about that exact timing, but around Giant Size #1, he was on Hulk, of course. He pulls in Wolverine from that. And he was about to jump on Amazing Spider-Man for a pretty mad run and Thor for a pretty solid run. And he was editing a bunch for Marvel, but I'm not sure about that 5 number. Patty talks about Dave's amazing costume design, talks about how and also the sad part is she talks about how he couldn't find any work for the last decade of his life. And he was only 63 when he died. So at 53 years old, he couldn't get work in comics. And this is, one of the best artists ever. And it's kind of sad for Marvel to print that in this book and admit it, let her admit it in a Marvel comic that they, couldn't throw him something. And Claremont, he's obviously not dead, so he writes his own editorial here. It's been nearly 50 years since Giant Size. And the one thing, then the weird thing is from both Patty and Chris, they both talk about Cockrum and his costume design. They allude to that he brought some of these designs that he already had. They literally reference Legion of Superheroes, but completely dance around it and don't state it. This issue as a whole, I don't know, it's a fun gimmick. It's worth a flip through, which is what I did. Did either of you bother to do so? Okay.
Right. So, retro book time, as it's Young Avengers #1 from March 2013. This is the Kieran Gillen run of Young Avengers with Jamie McKelvey and Mike Norton on art, Matthew Wilson on colors. So pretty stellar art team here. In terms of issue, it's pretty basic, like introducing all the characters that'll eventually come together, but they're all kind of separated right now. So we get Kate Bishop waking up on a spaceship after spending a night with Marvel Boy out in space. She's like replaying the actions of the evening in her head. And then they're suddenly attacked by Skrulls, and then like this is where like the McKelvey and Norton just page layouts start taking over, and they're really really fun kind of 60s like pop inspired layouts to me, especially with that first cover. Like that cover is very very colorful with like all the characters in different like circles. So it's really 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 cool layout design. Hulkling is out on the streets mimicking Spider-Man, and he comes back in from beating some thugs and clashing a bit with Wiccan about their roles and not only crime fighting, but the relationship. A lot of it hinging on Hulkling missing his mother. So Wiccan tries to use some magic to bring her back and see what he can do to cheer up his buddy. And we also see the young Loki. I think this is same time crossover of the Journey into Mystery series that Gillen was doing, or maybe this is after that. Meeting America Chavez, confronting him after doing some mischief in what looked like to be either a diner or a Waffle House. So they set up a very expressive fight. It's really fun to see. And then the cliffhanger is oh joy, Hulkling's mom is back, but oh no, it turns out to be some alien that starts like sucking the faces off of Wiccan's parents. So that's like the horror splash page, cliffhanger of what's going to happen. Really kind of fun issue, very very fast beat, expressive in terms of how it plays out. And then eventually there's different ways to introduce a team book, and this is one of those ways where it's like, here's all of our characters in different places, and then we'll have an event that eventually by issue 6 has them all kind of come together, and oh, we're a team now. Kind of that think New Avengers approach, I'm guessing, on how this eventually plays out here. But that's Young Avengers #1, March of 2013. It was pretty fun. I liked it. When I got 2013 on the roll of that random number generator, I was wondering what we were going to yield, but I never read this before, so this ended up being a pretty fun one.
Yeah, same. I mean, I don't think I've read this yet, and yeah, it does a pretty good job, I think, starting off the book on a high note, kind of setting the stage for where everyone's coming from. A lot of these characters I haven't really read anything of a lot, so I mean, aside from Kate Bishop, I guess, but yeah, I mean, this really has me interested to read more Young Avengers stuff. I think I do have volume one of Young Avengers. This is volume 2 or no?
This is volume 2.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So,
they very recently put out a complete collection for this whole series.
okay, might end up picking it up, but yeah, I don't know. This is definitely not the worst one of the retro issues we've read, so that's good.
Yeah, I've read this whole series and oddly reread the first arc for a class, and was hauling in my omnibus to class. It's a very small omnibus, but I'll just say off the bat, this is a really good book series as a whole. I could nitpick some stuff. I think through this run, Gillen gets a little cutesy at times with some of his dialogue and the characterization, but overall, this is one of the best Marvel books of the past decade. Like top 10 or even 5 over the past 10 years or so. The opening. And as this series goes on, it's just interesting to see this team to come together, because obviously he's pulling a lot of characters from the first iteration of Young Avengers, but also pulling in some interesting additions here. So off the bat, it just made, because Kate Bishop has a comment like, "Hey," to Novar, she's like, "Hey, didn't we fight you? And like, what was your code name?" And he's like, "Yeah, I had like 2 code names, and I was on the Avengers and the Dark Avengers." And it just reminds me of how awfully he was handled between his introduction from Grant Morrison in Marvel Knights and basically all the way up to this issue. Like the entire Bendis era, he was just forced into all these stupid positions. And this issue also is what made America Chavez relevant at all, because she first appeared in Vengeance by Joe Casey, which is this very strange, obscure, like villain-centric book that doesn't make any sense and has no relevance. And then she shows up in this series and becomes a really fan favorite character. I love how Hulkling has a poster of Mike Wieringo's cover to Fantastic Four number 509 in his room, but I don't like how he's a Jets fan. I don't have anything against that, but I feel bad for him.
Hulkling's probably not a fan of himself for being a Jets fan, especially if you watched that performance last night. Because oh boy, I mean, not to get into the New York Jets, but that was pitiful.
See, the thing is, you said last night, but you don't have to cut that out, because that's still going to be relevant next week or the next week or 2 years from now.
Since 1963. So,
and then also, you did mention how Hulkling impersonates Spider-Man for just a quick gag scene. I don't know how Kieran Gillen has never really written Spider-Man. He did like some 2-issue like hulked out heroes tie-in with Spider-Man, and I think he did like some A+X story. But like, how did Kieran Gillen never write Spider-Man? It seems like his comedy could fit it well, his voice. Now I kind of wish he was doing that instead of Warhammer 40K.
Isn't he doing Star Wars?
Nah, I think he's fully done with Star Wars.
Fully done with that? Well, he did get. I mean, he got the Star Wars book, so arguably, pretty big tier title.
Yeah, I mean he was cashing in.
But all right,
and I'm not that demeaning.
We're running late, so picks of the week. Vince, go.
I need to scroll. It's not Wonder Woman. It's not Shang-Chi. It's not X Factor. I think it's Immortal Hulk.
All right, Threshing Place. It's a fun one. Dan.
That Texas Blood.
All right. So do I have to ask you when we have that book on? You're allowed to pick different things, but now I'll just take it away from you. I'm going to go 3 Jokers. So, I mean, that was the week. I didn't particularly love anything, but if there's one book to read this week, I think it's 3 Jokers just to see where it goes. Setting up that ending. It's only 3 issues, so we'll see how it shakes out with that. But that is your show for this week. And, well, at this point, make sure to remember to wear a mask, wash your hands as always, and register to vote if you already haven't, which I don't know. Can you even still do that? Hopefully you can. But that's it for this week. We're running late, and we'll get the hell out.